going on, guys? It's Cliffy here. Now, if you haven't checked out last night's video, make sure you go and check that out. Something a little bit different than we are used to seeing on the channel, but something that has had a very good response so far, so make sure you go and check that out if you haven't already. Today, we are back with the South Australian Redbacks. We are taking on the Victorian Bushrangers in the 50-over comp. We've had one there that's just gone and taken the outside edge of Aaron Finch's bat, but hasn't had enough to carry through to Timmy Ludeman. So, we didn't score too many today, only 220 on the board, which I don't think is going to be enough, especially with the star-studded Victorian side. They should be able to chase it. Well, betting-wise, I'd say they should be able to chase us down with relative ease. But that really is not what we are here to talk about today. Today is more about world cricket, what's happening around well, I guess in the world of cricket. So we're going to start off first with the New Zealand-Indian series that has now wrapped up, done, dusted, finished. The fifth one-day international was a very one-sided affair. India scoring 269 for 6 off their 50 overs. And New Zealand limping, I don't even know if you can call it that, but limping towards, well, actually they made only 79 runs. So that is absolutely appalling. I think there was 5 ducks in the innings, and Tom Latham and Kane Williamson and Ross Taylor, I believe, were the only players to register into double figures. They scored majority of the runs. As I said, the rest, 5 ducks. You are never going to win a game chasing 260 by scoring 5 ducks, unless 2 of your players somehow miraculously score hundreds. But that does mean that series is done and dusted. 3-2 to India in that one, which, you know, as a New Zealand fan, as a Black Caps fan, it's not the worst feeling in the world to, you know, go to India. We got absolutely pumped in the Test series, so I was thinking potentially it was going to be much of the same in the one-day internationals. That wasn't the case. We did hold our own, I guess, in games. But much like the Test series, we just had very, very bad periods, mainly with the bat, not really the ball, and that has gone and cost us dearly, obviously costing us a series victory. Also, I think it's a chance to have a series victory in India for the first time in a very, very long time. But it is good. I mean, the squad is still young. There's still players in there who, you know, are developing, and it's a very good experience for them to go over and play in India, you know, experience the different conditions. So it will be interesting to see how a lot of them do come out of it on the other side. Tommy Latham, very impressive this whole tour. Both in the Test and the one-day internationals. He really was, especially in the one-days, the guy who was really just there for us. He was the anchor in the batting innings. I think in the first one day, possibly we didn't make too many. I think he carried his bat, which is the first time, again in a long time, that a New Zealander has carried their bat in a one-day international innings. So there are positives to take out of the tour, which I think is what you have to do. You know, even if you go and have a tour like this where, you know, you don't win a series, you only win 2 games, 2 one-day internationals, you still got to take some positives out of it. Obviously, it's not great going overseas and losing tours, but I mean, most teams in world cricket do it nowadays. They can't win away from home, and at home, teams are just so dominant. So, you know, you've got to hold the heads high, you've got to take some positives out of the series, which I'm sure they will do. I'm sure there's plenty of positives that they can go and take out of it. So, that's done and dusted. Another thing which is hugely important, not only for this country that I'm going to talk about, but I think world cricket in general, and that's right, that's Bangladesh cricket getting a win in a test match against England. Now, this is, I believe, one of their first wins against a top-tier nation. They have had test wins against Zimbabwe before, but, you know, against probably, I guess, the big 8, you would call them. I'm including West Indies in there, but Bangladesh possibly a better test side than West Indies. Probably a better side in general than the West Indies, but I will get into Windies cricket in just a second as well. But Bangladesh obviously picking up that win. That game was over inside 3 days. They were actually cruising along England, absolutely smashing it. I think they were only chasing, I think, about 220, 230 in the 4th innings. They were about 100 for none, and then just absolutely collapsed. It was calamitous, it was bad, it was awful, whatever you want to call it, it wasn't good. And it did mean that Bangladesh, as I said, have now gone and tied the series 1-1. They were very close in the first test as well. A lot of people saying potentially they could have made it. I think going into day 5, they needed 37 runs with 2 wickets left in hand. Couldn't quite get there. I think they fell 19 runs short. So it shows how much Bangladesh cricket has advanced, I guess you would say, over the last 10 years. They used to be the whipping boys of international cricket, and now they're going and obviously beating teams, you know, obviously in their own backyard, which again, I go back to the New Zealand-India series, that basically, you know, every team very, very dominant at home. Away from home, not as good. But still, for Bangladesh, obviously a small cricketing nation, for them to get this, it's not only a big plus for them, but it is a big plus for world cricket in general. And it just shows, you know, the likes of Ireland and Afghanistan, who are teams who are like pushing on Test status. They're very close to Test status. It shows that, you know, they are a chance. They are in with a chance if they can go and get that Test status. Play against, you know, bigger teams, play against better teams. That's the only way you get better. So it is interesting to see what will happen, obviously, on that forefront. Bangladesh, as I said, they are starting to get up. Sometimes, I think, depending on where they play, I think if they play outside of Asia, they can get a little bit... I'm trying to think of the word. They can get a little bit unstuck, I guess you would say, would be the word I'm looking for. Whereas when they play in Asia, they are a lot more competitive. And West Indies, that I said I was going to talk about, we are going to get to them. They are currently in the third game of a 3-match test series against Pakistan, which they are currently down 2-0. But they have put up a little bit of fight in the third test to date so far. So Pakistan made 280 odd, I believe, all out in their first innings. West Indies at the moment, I think, are only 37 runs behind with 4 wickets still left in the bag at stumps on day 2. So they have a really good chance here of going and pushing their case for a first innings lead here, you would have to say, with those 37 runs just needed, and obviously still the 4 wickets left in the bag. I think Braithwaite, the opener, he's still in. He's on 95 at the moment, and he's joined by captain Jason Holder, who we all know he can hold a bat. You know, he's a guy who's no slug. And West Indies, you know, they've produced a few of them over the years, you know, those number 8s, number 7s, those all-rounders that, you know, it can be obviously very effective both with the bat. Like Darren Sammy comes to mind. He did only take, I believe he did only score 1 Test match 100, but he's one of those guys, you know, he's no bunny with the bat. He can go and support that top order batsman, and that potentially is what is going to happen between Braithwaite and Holder in day 3. You'd have to say that if Holder can just hang in there, give Braithwaite most of the strike, then they are in with a very good chance of not only getting a first innings lead, but a good first innings lead. And I'm trying to think where they're playing. I think it's, I can't remember, but I'll give them a very good chance, especially heading into days, because I think they're playing in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, one of the two. But heading into days 4 and days 5, if they can, as I said, get a decent lead, it is going to give them a very good chance of going and getting a victory to not win the series, but make it 2-1. But I guess to restore a little bit of pride as well, because Bishu has been very, very good. Obviously, he took 8 for, I believe, in the day-night test. Took about 8 for 40. He almost took West Indies to the victory, but in the end, it wasn't just quite enough. So they've got him, and I'm just trying to think what other spinners they have. But if it is a pitch that we are used to seeing in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, wherever they are playing, then we are guessing that it probably is going to crumble and it's going to turn on days 4 and 5. So there is plenty of opportunity for West Indies to win this test match, and they just need to go and really put their hands up. And I think, you know, be like Bangladesh and be like, you know what, we can win this test. We can win these games. And that's what they need to do. They need to get that winning mentality back, I think, because they are starting, they are definitely going backwards, you'd have to say. And I think, you know, that also has a lot to do with T20 cricket. A lot of their stars, Chris Gale, Dwayne Bravo, Kyron Pollard, and also the board. They are having issues with the West Indies cricket board at the moment, I think, in regards to money and stuff like that. So it does make sense that those stars, you know, those Gales, those Pollards, they are going to go overseas and play in T20 leagues because they're going to get paid good money to do it, which they aren't getting paid by their home cricket board. So, you know, fair play to them, obviously, for going and doing it, but you know, it comes down, I guess, to the question, you know, same in football of obviously club versus country. You know, the clubs in football, it is slightly different. I guess it is a little bit similar to cricket, I guess. You know, clubs in football are the teams that pay you, obviously, the big money. They're the guys that are going to sign you to those long-term contracts. And I know it probably is this a little bit the same as cricket. Obviously, cricket in an international sense, if you're playing for your international side, you are going to get a lot more money than obviously playing club cricket. But heading around and playing T20 tournaments around the world, that is where you can go and make the big money. You know, the likes of Chris Gale, Brendan McCullum, Kyron Pollard, you know, just to name a few. They're the guys that can go and make some big bucks. Obviously, their cricketing board not as big as, say, someone like England, South Africa, or Australia that are going to pay their players a very, very good rate, I guess you would say. Not saying that West Indies and New Zealand cricket boards don't play their players enough. I'm sure that they do, but it is just an opportunity to go and earn a little bit more on top of that. That one there, I think, actually stayed just a little bit low to Cam White. It went and hit him on the pads, and this game is actually going quite a lot closer than I did think it would. Still 74 needed, but 5 wickets down now are the Victorians. Still plenty of time. Still about 21 overs left to go, so there is still a long time left for them to go and bat out these overs. Finally, I'm going to get on to the last series. Well, I was going to say there was 4 series going on at the present time. That is Sri Lanka touring Zimbabwe. Now, this is a little bit of a different Sri Lankan side, I guess you would say. No Matthews, no Chandimal either. So Harath is captaining the side, 38 years old, captaining the Sri Lankan side, I believe for the first time in his career. It has had a little bit of a change up in the batting order and just how things have been working. But they did do pretty well. They scored 530, 570 in the first innings, so they definitely haven't, I guess, mucked that up, haven't macked up the batting order. I believe one of the Pereiras went and scored 100. Thuranga, he scored a ton as well. I believe that is his first ton. I was reading a stat somewhere. His time between his first ton and his second ton was over 3,000 days or something, so that is very, very long. I think it's the longest player since World War II, the stat also said. So that is, that is quite a long time to obviously wait between that. Turanga isn't really he's not really a test player. He's more of a guy who is in the side, a limited overs player, we shall say. But as I said, they did score 530, 570, one of the two, I can't quite remember. But it was a very, very good effort. It must have been 530 actually, because the Zimbabweans, they replied very well. They scored 373, which for them obviously is a very, very good total. As I said, I think it left them about 160 in arrears. But still, whenever you're chasing over 500 in a test match, if you aren't heading in to the second innings, with a bit of a deficit, then you've obviously done a bloody good job. Either that or you're playing on an absolute road. So it is good that they went and did that. Their captain, Graham Creamer, scored his, I'm not sure if this is his maiden first class 100 as well, but it is his maiden test 100 for the number 8 Zimbabwe skipper to go and score that. So obviously well done to him. Took 4 wickets in the first innings as well. So he is really leading by the front, leading from example at going and trying to get his side. Again, a special win. Zimbabwe, one of those teams, obviously, that don't go and pick up too many test wins either. And they will be looking, obviously, going and trying to hunt for one in this series, especially with the Sri Lankan team without Chandimal and Matthews, who have been their 2 big guns, for the past, I'd have to say 2-3 years, since the likes of Jaya Wardner, Sangakkara, and Dilshan all retired from the national side. But that is all the world cricket that we do have to talk about at the moment. We must be coming very, very close to the end of our spell. We have taken 4 for, which, at the end of the day is a little bit strange. Normally we don't take a huge amount of wickets in this career mode, but we have done it here today. We've taken 4 for 14. That 4 from Matty Wade is going to make it 4 for 18. And we just need to make sure that, we just keep going, just keep plugging away. We have had quite a few bowls as well, and I think that potentially was a flash of lightning here at South Australia. So it is looking like there is a thunderstorm coming, and I think if there is rain or a disruption in the game, I think it could personally work well for us, because even though Victoria don't have a long time to go, they don't have a lot of runs left to get. They are 6 wickets down, and that is going to hugely affect the Duckworth-Lewis. We're coming into our final over here. There is only 40 runs left to get off 13 overs. So you'd have to say at the moment that Victoria are in the driver's seat. We've done our bit, obviously 4 for 18 off our 9 overs so far to date. You can't ask for too much more than that. And Hastings is really just hanging around at the moment. 3 off 22. And Wade just looks like he's going to go and block us out, see us out, and let us finish off our spell. But that's not what we want, Matty Wade. We want you to edge one. We want you to put one just like that, up in the air towards those men who are in there close on the offside, And that one there, probably just a whisker away from one of those hands. A whisker away from having a 5-wicket bag, which is something we will definitely take. But I think if we can get Matty Wade here, not myself, but I think if the team can get him, then it is going to put a lot of pressure on Victoria. Obviously, number 8 and number 9 in, and that is not going to help our causes. A no ball, that is not what we wanted. It's now a free hit for Matty Wade, and as I said, not what we wanted. We were going so well up until then, and this potentially, not going to ruin our stats, but it is going to harm them. Remember, we were 4 for 14. We got hit for that 4 in the last over. They are going to come back for the third, which means the last ball is going to go to big John Hastings. But as I said, before that over, before that no ball, 4 for 20, you would definitely take that any day of the week. And Johnny Hastings is just going to rub a little bit of salt into the wound as he plays a nice straight drive down the ground that is actually going to go all the way. So 8 runs coming off those last 2 legitimate balls, which has gone and pumped up our RPO, I guess you would say, our runs per over. As I said, it probably is going to be too little too late for us to go and get up, and that does seem to be the case. High fives, there is a huge height difference. John Hastings and Matt Wade. Fast bowler and wicketkeeper, that definitely does happen. We pick up the man of the match for that 4 for 28. We did also score 8 off 5 with the bat. Just went for a slog, basically. Just wanted to do some bowling and just have a chat with you guys, which is what we ended up doing. But anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap things up here. Do hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please remember to leave a like. If you are new, please do subscribe. Make sure you check out my Facebook and Twitter. Links to that can be found down below in the description. Also, down in the comments, let me know what video you would like to see tomorrow. If you haven't seen tomorrow's video, make sure you go and check that out. We'll see you tomorrow. Till then, still don't have a sign out. Peace.